Park Tae-ho pushed his cleaning cart through the long hallway of the Kalari Imperial Station. The wheels squeaked against the polished floor. He had asked for oil 3 times, but nobody listened to janitors. Nobody listened to humans at all. The station was massive. It held over 200,000 people from dozens of species. Kellari nobles walked through the main corridors in their fine robes, their scaled skin shining under bright lights. Military officers marched in groups, their boots clicking in perfect rhythm. Merchants shouted prices. Servants rushed with packages. Everyone had somewhere important to be. Tae-ho had nowhere important to be. He just had floors to clean. A group of Kellari officers walked toward him. Tae-ho moved his cart to the side and pressed himself against the wall. The officers passed without looking at him. Their conversation never paused. He was invisible to them. He was invisible to everyone. This was life for humans in the galaxy. Earth had joined the galactic community 60 years ago, full of hope and excitement. Humans thought they would be welcomed as equals. They thought wrong. Compared to other species, humans were weak. They lived short lives. They had no special abilities, no natural weapons, no telepathy, no extraordinary senses. Other species looked at humans and saw nothing worth noticing, so humans took the jobs nobody else wanted: cleaning, carrying, serving, the lowest work for the lowest species. Tae-ho had not always been a janitor. Back on Earth, he had been an engineer. He had worked for a power company, maintaining reactor systems. He had been good at it. But then the economy collapsed. Millions lost their jobs. Tae-ho lost his apartment, his savings, everything. When a labor company offered work on an alien space station, he took it. That was 3 years ago. He had been pushing this card ever since. He turned into a smaller corridor that led to the noble quarters. This area was always clean, but he checked it twice a day anyway. The nobles complained about everything. A single spot on the floor could mean losing his job. As he walked, he saw something on the ground. A small chip, about the size of his thumbnail. It was made of crystal, with tiny lights blinking inside. A data chip. Someone had dropped it. Tae-ho picked it up. He looked around. The corridor was empty. He could sell this chip. Data chips from the noble quarters were valuable. Some contained business secrets. Some contained personal information. Black market dealers paid good money for them. He put the chip in his pocket and continued walking. Then he stopped. He thought about the person who lost it. Maybe it was important to them. Maybe it had memories of family. Maybe it had work they could not replace. Tae-ho knew what it felt like to lose important things. He took the chip out and looked at it again. There was a small symbol on one side. A noble house mark. He recognized it. House Vera. One of the highest families in the Empire. Tae-ho should have left it at the lost items office. That was the rule. But items left there often disappeared. Workers sold them. Everyone knew this. He made a decision. He would return it himself. He asked other servants about House Vera. They looked at him like he was crazy. A human going to a noble's door? But they told him where to find it. Level 42, East Wing, the door with the silver serpent. Tae-ho took a lift to level 42. His heart beat fast. He had never been to this level before. The hallways were wider here. The lights were softer. Everything smelled like flowers. He found the door with the silver serpent. He stood there for a long moment. Then he pressed the signal button. The door opened. A Kalari female stood there. She was tall and slim, with dark green scales and golden eyes. She wore a simple gray dress, but even simple clothes looked expensive on her. She looked at Tae-ho with confusion. "What is this?" she asked. Tae-ho bowed his head. "I found this in the corridor, my lady. I believe it belongs to your house." He held out the chip. The female's eyes went wide. She grabbed the chip and checked it quickly. Her hands were shaking. She looked at Tae-ho with an expression he could not read. "Where did you find this?" "Level 40 North Corridor, near the garden entrance." That was hours ago. I have been searching everywhere. She stared at him. Why did you bring it here? Why not sell it? Tae-ho did not know what to say. The question seemed strange to him. It looked important to you, he said. The female tilted her head. Kalari did this when they were confused. Important to me? You do not know what is on this chip. It could be worthless. But it is not worthless to you. You were searching for it. She kept staring at him. Tae-ho felt uncomfortable under her golden eyes. What is your name, human? Park Tae-ho, my lady. I am Lady Vera. Head of House Vera. She looked at the chip again, then back at him. Most workers would have sold this, even my own servants. Why are you different? Tae-ho thought about the question. I am not different, my lady. I just thought about how I would feel if I lost something important. Lady Vera said nothing for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a credit chip. For your honesty. Tae-ho shook his head. I did not return it for money, my lady. Her eyes narrowed. Then what do you want? Nothing. I should return to work now. He bowed again and turned to leave. Wait. He stopped. Lady Vera was looking at him like he was a puzzle she could not solve. You are a strange human, Park Tae-ho. He did not know how to respond to that, so he just bowed once more and walked away. He felt her eyes on his back until he turned the corner. He returned to his cart on level 40 and continued his cleaning. The squeaky wheels still bothered him. The floors still needed mopping. Nothing had changed. But something had changed for Lady Vera. She stood in her doorway for a long time after the human left, holding the chip that contained her father's last message to her. The only recording of his voice she had. She had offered money and he refused. She had asked what he wanted and he said nothing. In her entire life, nobody had ever wanted nothing from her. That night she made a decision. She would watch this human. She would learn why he was different. She did not know that this decision would change the empire forever. Lady Vera began watching the human called Park Tae-ho. She did not tell anyone. A noble watching a janitor would cause too many questions, so she watched in secret, using the station's security cameras and her own careful observations. At first, she did not know what she was looking for. She only knew that something about him was different. In her 200 years of life, she had learned to trust her instincts. Her instincts told her this human was worth studying. She watched him work. He cleaned floors, emptied waste containers, polished windows, the same boring tasks every day. But the way he did them was strange. He did not rush. He did not cut corners. When he cleaned a floor, he cleaned it properly. When other janitors finished early and hid somewhere to rest, Tae-ho kept working. He found new things to do. He noticed a broken light panel in a hallway and reported it. He saw a leak in a ceiling and marked it for repair. He was not paid to do these things. He did them anyway. One day, Vera watched him find a crack in a wall pipe. Water was dripping slowly. It was a small problem, but small problems became big problems. Tae-ho looked around, then pulled tools from his cart. He was not supposed to have tools. Janitors were not allowed to repair things. But he fixed the pipe himself. It took him an hour. Then he continued cleaning like nothing happened. Why would he do that? The repair was not his job. Nobody would thank him. Nobody would even know. She watched him with other workers. Most janitors stayed alone. They did not talk to each other. But Tae-ho was different. There was a young Kalari servant named Nira who worked in the kitchens. She was thin and always looked tired. Servants in the kitchens worked long hours for little food. Every day, Tae-ho shared his lunch with her. He only received a small meal as part of his pay. He gave half to this girl he barely knew. Vera saw him go hungry so Nira could eat. "Why do you do that?" Nira asked him one day. Vera listened through a hidden microphone. Do what? Tai-Ho asked. Give me food. We are not family. We are not even the same species. Tai-Ho smiled. It was a kind smile. You are hungry. I have food. It is simple. Nothing is simple, Nira said. Some things are. Vera did not understand him. In Kalari society, everything was trade. You gave something, you received something. There was always a balance. But this human gave without receiving. It made no sense. She noticed other things. He was learning the Kalari language. At night, in his tiny room, he practiced words and phrases. His accent was terrible, but he kept trying. Most humans never bothered to learn. They used translator devices and stayed separate from alien cultures. Tai-Ho wanted to understand. After 3 weeks of watching, Vera decided to test him. She placed a broken device in a hallway he cleaned every night. It was a climate controller, cracked and useless. Broken equipment was supposed to be reported, then thrown away. That was the rule. She watched through cameras as Tai-Ho found it. He picked it up and looked at it carefully. He turned it over in his hands, studying the damage. Then he put it in his cart and continued working. The next morning, Vera checked the hallway. The climate controller was back in its place on the wall, working perfectly. She felt a strange emotion. Something like excitement. She pulled the device from the wall and examined it. The repair was not professional. He had used simple materials, probably things he found in waste containers. But it worked. It worked better than before, actually. She took the device to Commander Bren, the military leader of the station. Bren was an old soldier with scars on his face and no patience for nonsense. What is this? He asked, looking at the climate controller. A human janitor repaired it, Vera said. He was not asked. He was not paid. He just did it. Bren snorted. So, maybe he was bored. He also fixed a pipe last week and reported 12 maintenance problems this month, all things outside his job. What do you want me to say, Lady Vera? That humans are useful? Bren laughed. They are weak, short-lived, and they break easily. We have millions of them in the Empire doing simple labor. This one fixed a climate controller. So what? He is different from the others. They are all the same. Trust me. I have commanded humans in labor battalions. They complain, they get sick, they die. They are the worst species in the galaxy. He handed back the device. Forget this janitor. You have more important things to do. Vera left his office feeling frustrated. Bren was a fool. He looked at humans and saw only what he expected to see. He did not look closer, but Vera looked closer, and she saw something that surprised her. She began visiting the areas where Tai-Ho worked. She pretended to be walking, or inspecting, or waiting for someone. She positioned herself where he would see her. Most workers became nervous when nobles were near. They worked faster, made mistakes, kept their heads down. Tai-Ho did not change. He worked the same way he always did. Careful, thorough, steady. He bowed politely when he saw her, but he did not shake with fear. He did not try to impress her. One day, she spoke to him directly. You fixed a climate controller, she said. He looked worried. I am sorry, my lady. I know it is against the rules. I will not do it again. I am not angry. I want to know why you did it. He thought about her question. It was broken. I knew how to fix it, so I fixed it. But it is not your job. No, he agreed, but it is still broken, whether it is my job or not. Vera studied his face. Human faces were so strange, soft skin, no scales, small eyes. But his expression was calm, honest. He was not trying to trick her or impress her. He was simply telling the truth. Where did you learn to repair things? She asked. On Earth. I was an engineer. I worked with power systems. An engineer? This surprised her. Why are you a janitor now? Something sad moved across his face. Things changed. I lost my job. I lost many things. This work was available, so I took it. You could do more than clean floors. Perhaps, but this is what I have now, so I do it well. She did not know what to say to that. She had never met anyone like him. Most people wanted more, always more. Better jobs, more money, higher status. This human had lost everything, and he was not bitter. He was not angry. He just did his work and helped people around him. She walked away without another word, but she thought about him for the rest of the day. That night, she made a report on her personal computer. She described everything she had observed about Park Tae-ho. His behavior, his skills, his character. She did not know why she was making this report. She did not know who she would show it to. She only knew that this human was special, and special things should not be wasted. The alarm started at midnight, a loud, screaming sound that echoed through every corridor of the station. Red lights flashed on walls. Emergency messages played in 6 languages. Warning, reactor cooling system failure. All personnel move to evacuation points. Tae-ho was cleaning level 35 when the alarm began. People ran past him in panic. Officers shouted orders. Families carried children. Everyone was moving toward the escape ships, but Tae-ho did not move toward the escape ships. He moved toward the reactor level. He knew about reactors. He had worked with them for 15 years on Earth. He knew what a cooling system failure meant. If the cooling stopped, the reactor would overheat. If it overheated too much, it would explode. An explosion would destroy the entire station. 200,000 people would die. The reactor level was deep in the station's core. Tae-ho took a service lift down. The lift was shaking. The lights inside flickered. When the doors opened, heat hit his face like a wall. The reactor room was chaos. Engineers ran between control panels, shouting at each other. Screens showed red warnings everywhere. Steam poured from broken pipes. The temperature was rising fast. Tae-ho saw the problem immediately. The main cooling pump had failed. Backup pumps were running, but they were not enough. The heat was building faster than they could remove it. A Kalari engineer was working on the main pump. His hands moved quickly over the controls, but nothing was working. His face showed pure fear. "The pump is dead," he shouted to his team. "The motor burned out. We need a replacement." "There is no replacement on the station," another engineer said. "We have to order one. It will take 2 days. We have 3 hours before the reactor explodes." Tae-ho walked closer. He looked at the pump system. It was different from Earth technology, but the basic principles were the same. Pumps moved liquid. Motors powered pumps. If the motor was dead, you needed to find another way to move the liquid. "What about the secondary circulation system?" Tae-ho asked. Everyone turned to look at him. They saw a human in janitor clothes. Their faces showed confusion, then anger. "Who let this worker in here?" the lead engineer demanded. "Security! Remove him!" 2 guards grabbed Tae-ho's arms. They started to drag him away. "Wait!" Tae-ho shouted. "I can help. I was an engineer on Earth. I worked with reactor cooling systems." "A human engineer?" The lead engineer laughed bitterly. "Human technology is primitive. You know nothing about Kalari reactors. The principles are the same. Heat must be removed. If the main pump is dead, use the secondary system. Redirect the coolant flow through the emergency channels." The lead engineer shook his head. "The emergency channels are too small. They cannot handle the full coolant load." "Not the full load, but enough to slow the heat buildup. That gives you time to repair the main pump." "The main pump cannot be repaired. The motor is destroyed." Tae-ho thought fast. He looked around the room, at all the equipment. Then he saw something, another pump, smaller, used for a different system. "That pump," he said, pointing. "What does it do?" "It moves wastewater." "Why?" "The motor is the same type as the main cooling pump. I can see it from here. Same size, same power output." The engineers looked at the waste pump. Then they looked at the main cooling pump. Their eyes went wide. "He is right," one of them said quietly. "We would have to remove the waste pump motor and install it in the cooling system," the lead engineer said. "That is 6 hours of work." "I can do it in 3, Tae-ho said. "Maybe less." "You? A janitor?" "I told you. I was an engineer. This is what I did." The lead engineer stared at him. The station shook. More alarms sounded. Time was running out. "Let him try," a voice said. Everyone turned. Lady Vera stood in the doorway. She had come down to the reactor level when she heard about the emergency. She did not know Tae-ho was here until she heard his voice. "Lady Vera," the lead engineer said, bowing quickly, "this human claims he can fix the reactor. It is ridiculous." "Let him try," Vera repeated. Her voice was calm but firm. "What do you have to lose?" The lead engineer hesitated. Another explosion shook the room. A pipe burst somewhere, spraying hot steam. "Fine," he said. "Human, do what you can. If you fail, we all die anyway." The guards released Tae-ho. He ran to the waste pump and began working. He did not have proper tools, so he used what he could find. He asked engineers for help and they gave it, though they still looked doubtful. He worked faster than he had ever worked in his life. His hands moved automatically, doing things he had done 1,000 times on Earth. Remove the motor housing. Disconnect the power cables. Unbolt the motor mount. The Kalari technology was more advanced, but the basics were the same. Everything was always the same. 1 hour passed, then 2. The temperature kept rising. Sweat poured down Tae-ho's face. His hands were burned from touching hot metal. He did not stop. Lady Vera watched him work. She had never seen anyone focus so completely. The world around him disappeared. There was only the machine and his hands. At hour 3, he lifted the motor from the waste pump. It was heavy, but he carried it to the main cooling system. Engineers helped him position it. He connected the power cables. He bolted it into place. "Start it," he said. The lead engineer activated the pump. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a low hum filled the room. The pump was working. Coolant began flowing again. The temperature readings stopped climbing. Then, slowly, they started to fall. The engineers stared at their screens in disbelief. Then they started cheering. They grabbed each other, laughing and crying. The station was saved. Tae-ho sat down on the floor. He was exhausted. His hands were shaking. His burns were painful. But he was smiling. Lady Vera walked over to him. She looked down at him with an expression he could not read. "How did a janitor know how to do that?" she asked. Tae-ho looked up at her. "I was not always a janitor, my lady." She reached down and offered her hand. He took it, and she helped him stand. Her hand was cool and smooth, like polished stone. "No," she said quietly. "You were not." She did not let go of his hand. Around them, engineers celebrated. The reactor hummed steadily. The station was safe. But everything was about to change, because news of what happened would spread. News always spread. And when the Emperor heard that a human janitor saved 200,000 lives, he would want to meet this human himself. Tae-ho did not know this yet. He only knew that his hands hurt, and he was very tired. He had done what needed to be done. That was enough. It was always enough. The throne room of Emperor Dorath was the largest room Tae-ho had ever seen. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadow. The walls were covered with gold and precious stones. Thousands of lights floated in the air like tiny stars. And at the far end, on a throne made of black crystal, sat the ruler of the Kalari Empire. Emperor Dorath was ancient. His scales had turned silver with age. His eyes were pale, almost white, but there was nothing weak about him. Power came from him like heat from a fire. Everyone in the room felt it. Tae-ho stood in the center of the throne room. He was still wearing his janitor uniform. They had not given him time to change. Guards stood on both sides of him. Nobles filled the room. watching with curious and hostile eyes. Lady Vera stood before the throne. She had been summoned to explain her actions during the reactor incident. Specifically, why she had protected a human and allowed him to touch critical systems. "You gave permission for this janitor to repair the reactor," the Emperor said. His voice was soft, but carried through the entire room. "Why?" Vera kept her head high. She was afraid, but she did not show it. "The station was going to explode, Your Majesty. The engineers could not fix the problem. The human said he could. I made a decision." "A human," someone in the crowd said with disgust. "You trusted our lives to a human." "I trusted our lives to the only person who had a solution," Vera replied. "And if he had failed?" the Emperor asked. "Then we would have died. We were going to die anyway." Murmurs moved through the crowd. The Emperor raised one finger and silence returned instantly. "This human," he said, looking at Tae-ho for the first time. "He was a janitor. Now you tell me he is an engineer. Which is it?" Vera glanced at Tae-ho. He saw encouragement in her eyes. "I was an engineer on Earth, Your Majesty," Tae-ho said. His voice shook slightly. "I lost my job and came here for work. The only work available was cleaning. So the Kalari Empire takes human engineers and makes them janitors." The Emperor sounded almost amused. "What a waste! Humans are suited for simple labor," an old noble said. "It is known. Their minds are not capable of complex work. And yet this one saved my station." The Emperor's voice hardened. 200,000 lives, the most important military station in the outer systems. Saved by a janitor with a mop. Nobody spoke. The Emperor looked at Vera again. "You have been watching this human?" "Yes. I know about that. I know everything that happens in my empire. You have been observing him for weeks. Why?" Vera took a breath. This was the moment. She could lie, make excuses, protect herself, or she could tell the truth. She told the truth. "Because he is different, Your Majesty. He works when no one is watching. He helps others without reward. He sees problems and fixes them even when it is not his job. He is what a person should be." "A human is what a person should be?" The noble laughed. "Lady Vera, you have lost your mind." "Perhaps." Vera turned to face the crowd. "But while you were all sleeping safely, this human was working for 3 hours in a burning reactor room. He burned his hands saving your lives. What did you do?" The noble's face turned dark with anger. "You dare?" "Enough." The Emperor's voice cut through the argument. Everyone went silent again. He looked at Vera with his pale eyes. "You are fond of this human?" It was not a question. Vera lifted her chin. "Yes, Your Majesty, I am." "And what would you do with him?" Vera knew what she wanted to say. She had thought about it for days, ever since the reactor incident. It was a crazy thing to say. It could destroy her reputation, her house, her future. But she said it anyway. "I want to keep this human." The room exploded with noise. Nobles shouted in shock and anger. Some laughed. The guards shifted nervously. Even Tae-ho stared at her with wide eyes. Keep him? Humans were not kept. They were hired, used, and discarded. Keeping a human was like keeping a piece of furniture. It was not done. The Emperor raised his hand. Silence fell again, though it took longer this time. "You want to keep him?" the Emperor repeated slowly. "Like a pet?" "Like an asset," Vera said. "He has value. I see it, even if others do not. I want to use that value for my house and for the Empire." "He is a janitor." "He was a janitor. He can be more." The Emperor leaned back on his throne. His eyes moved to Tae-ho. "Come closer, human." Tae-ho walked forward. His legs felt weak. He stopped at the base of the throne and bowed low. "Look at me." Tae-ho raised his head. He looked into the Emperor's pale eyes. He expected to see cruelty there, or cold indifference. Instead, he saw curiosity, the same curiosity he had seen in Lady Vera. "You fix my reactor," the Emperor said. "How?" Taeho explained what he had done. He used simple words, careful not to sound like he was showing off. He described the problem, his solution, and how he carried it out. "You did this work on Earth?" the Emperor asked. "Yes, Your Majesty. For 15 years. And you were good at it?" "I was competent, Your Majesty." "Competent." The Emperor made a sound that might have been a laugh. "A competent human. How interesting." He asked more questions. About engineering, about Earth, about human technology. Some questions Taeho could answer. Some he could not. He said honestly when he did not know something. Then the Emperor asked questions about other things. About economics, about management, about strategy. Taeho was surprised. He answered as best he could, but these were not his areas of expertise. "You think carefully," the Emperor observed. "You do not pretend to know things you do not know. This is rare. Most people lie to impress me. Lying would not help you, Your Majesty, and it would not help me." "No, it would not." The Emperor was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You saved my station. 200,000 people. What do you want in return?" Taeho blinked. He had not expected this question. What did he want? Money? A better job? Freedom? He thought about his cleaning cart with the squeaky wheel. He thought about asking for oil 3 times. "A better mop would be nice, Your Majesty." Dead silence. Then the Emperor laughed. It was a real laugh, loud and long. The whole room stared in shock. Emperor Dorath had not laughed in decades. "A mop," the Emperor said, still laughing. "He wants a mop." He shook his head slowly. "Lady Vera, you were right. This human is different." He stopped laughing, but a smile remained on his ancient face. "Very well, Lady Vera. You may keep your human, but I think he will be more than just your asset." He looked at Taeho with those pale, knowing eyes. "I think he will be much more." Taeho bowed low again. He did not understand everything that had happened. He did not know what the future would bring. But he knew that his life as a janitor was over, and something new was beginning. 3 days after meeting the Emperor, Taeho received a message. He was to report to the Imperial Council chamber, official business. He stood outside the chamber doors, trying to calm his breathing. His janitor uniform was gone. Lady Vera had given him new clothes, simple but well made. He felt strange in them, like he was pretending to be someone else. The doors opened. A servant gestured for him to enter. The council chamber was round, with a high ceiling painted with stars. A long table sat in the center, surrounded by chairs. Most chairs were empty, but 3 people waited for him. Emperor Dorath sat at the head of the table. Lady Vera sat to his right. Commander Bren sat to his left, his scarred face showing clear displeasure. "Sit," the Emperor said, pointing to a chair across from him. Taeho sat. His hands were sweating. "I have been thinking about you," the Emperor said, "since our meeting. A human janitor who is actually an engineer, who saves space stations and asks for a mop. You are a puzzle." "I am just a person, Your Majesty." "No, you are not just anything." The Emperor leaned forward. "The Kalari Empire has ruled this region of the galaxy for 2,000 years. We have done this by recognizing value and using it. I recognize your value, Park Taeho. I want to use it." Taeho's heart beat faster. "What do you mean, Your Majesty?" "I want you to be a technical advisor to my council. You will review engineering projects, infrastructure plans, system designs. You will tell me when something is wrong and how to fix it. You will do what you did with my reactor, but for the entire Empire." Taeho stared at him. He could not have heard correctly. A technical advisor? Me? You. Commander Bren made a disgusted sound. Your Majesty, this is madness. A human on the Imperial Council? Our enemies will laugh at us. Our allies will question our judgment. Let them laugh. Let them question. When this human improves our systems and saves us money and lives, they will stop laughing. The Emperor looked at Bren coldly. You told Lady Vera that humans are useless. You were wrong. Admit it. Bren's jaw tightened. He said nothing. I thought so. The Emperor turned back to Tejo. Do you accept? Tejo's mind was spinning. This was beyond anything he had imagined. A seat on the council, power to make real changes. It was everything he could have wanted, but he thought about something else. May I ask something first, Your Majesty? Ask. The humans on this station, the janitors, the laborers, the servants, they work hard for little pay. They live in bad conditions. Many are sick. If I accept this position, I want to help them. Better housing, fair wages, medical care. Will you allow this? Bren laughed. Now he makes demands. Typical human arrogance. But the Emperor did not laugh. He studied Tejo with those pale eyes. You would bargain for others before yourself. Interesting. He thought for a moment. Very well. Improve conditions for humans on this station. It is a small price for your service. Thank you. Your Majesty, do not thank me yet. You must earn this position. If you fail, there will be consequences. The Emperor stood. Welcome to the Council, Advisor Park. And so Tejo's new life began. The first months were difficult. Other council members hated him. They thought he did not belong. They blocked his access, ignored his suggestions, and mocked him in meetings. Some refused to speak to him at all. But Tejo did not fight them. He worked. He reviewed every project that came to his desk. He found problems and suggested solutions. He stayed late, came early, and never complained. Slowly, things began to change. His first success was a transportation system that was over budget and behind schedule. Tejo reviewed the plans and found waste everywhere. Too many expensive materials, too complicated designs. He simplified everything. The project finished early and under budget. Then he improved the power grid for 3 military bases. Then he fixed flaws in a water purification system. Then he redesigned a communications network. Each time he saved money and improved performance. People started to notice. Engineers requested his review on their projects. Officials asked for his advice. Even some council members began treating him with respect. Commander Bren was the hardest to win over. He still thought humans were inferior. He still complained about Tejo in meetings. Then Tejo found a flaw in the military defense grid. He was reviewing routine security reports when he noticed something strange. A pattern in the power distribution. He studied it for hours, running calculations, checking data. Then he understood. He went to Bren's office. What do you want? Bren asked coldly. There is a flaw in the Sector 7 defense grid. The power distribution creates a blind spot every 43 minutes. It lasts for 6 seconds. During those 6 seconds, a small ship could pass through undetected. Bren stared at him. Impossible. Our engineers designed that grid. Your engineers made a mistake. I can show you. Tejo showed him. He explained the problem, the math, the pattern. Bren listened with growing disbelief. This cannot be right, Bren said. Test it yourself. Send a drone through Sector 7 when the blind spot opens. See what happens. Bren tested it. The drone passed through undetected, exactly as Tejo predicted. The next day, Bren came to Tejo's office. His face was strange, not friendly, but not hostile either. You were right, he said. The flaw was real. We have fixed it. Good. Bren hesitated. Then he said, I told Lady Vera that all humans were the same. Useless. Weak. He paused. I was wrong about you. It was not an apology, but it was something. Tejo nodded. Thank you, Commander. Bren left without another word. But after that, he stopped mocking Tejo in meetings. And when others criticized the human advisor, Bren said nothing to support them. Lady Vera watched all of this with quiet pride. She visited Tai-Ho often, asking about his work, his plans, his thoughts. Their conversations grew longer, more personal. One evening, she came to his office late. He was still working as usual. "You should rest," she said. "There is too much to do." "There is always too much to do." "That is not a reason to destroy yourself." He looked up at her. In the soft light, her green scales seemed to glow. Her golden eyes were warm. "Why did you do it?" he asked. "In the throne room. Why did you say you wanted to keep me? You risked everything." She was quiet for a moment. "Because I saw who you were, and I could not let that be wasted. The galaxy wastes too many things, too many people." She paused. "I did not want you to be another one." Tejo did not know what to say, so he just said, "Thank you." "Do not thank me. Prove me right." He smiled. "I will try." She smiled back. It was a rare thing, a Kalari smile, but it was real. Over the following months, Tejo kept his promise. He improved conditions for humans on the station: better housing, fair pay, medical care. Some humans were moved to better jobs when they showed ability. Word spread to other stations, other worlds. Humans began to hope. Tejo was not just an advisor anymore. He was a symbol. Proof that humans could be more than janitors and laborers. Proof that worth was not decided by species. He did not know it yet, but his greatest test was coming. A test that would take him far from the station, far from Lady Vera, into a crisis that threatened to tear the Empire apart. And he would have to solve it not with engineering, but with something else entirely. The message came during a council meeting. 3 star systems on the edge of the Empire had declared rebellion. They refused to pay taxes, expelled Imperial officials, and closed their borders. If anyone tried to enter, they would be destroyed. Commander Bren wanted war. "Send the fleet," he said. "Crush them quickly, before other systems get ideas." Several council members agreed. Rebellion could not be allowed. The Empire must show strength. But Tejo raised his hand. "May I speak?" Emperor Dorath nodded. "Before we attack, should we not understand why they are rebelling?" "Why does it matter?" Bren asked. "They broke the law. They must be punished. But if we do not understand the cause, we will not prevent it from happening again. Other systems may rebel for the same reasons. We will spend forever fighting symptoms instead of curing the disease." The Emperor tapped his fingers on the table. "What do you suggest?" "Send someone to investigate. Find out why these people are so angry that they would risk death. Then decide what to do." Bren shook his head. "Waste of time. They will lie to us." "Rebels always lie." "Then send someone they will not lie to." Tejo paused. "Send me." Everyone stared at him. Even Lady Vera looked surprised. "You?" Bren said. "You are a technical advisor. What do you know about politics?" "Nothing," Tejo admitted. "But I know about people. I know how to listen. I know how to see problems that others miss. Let me try." The Emperor considered this. "It is dangerous. The rebels may kill you." "They may. But war is also dangerous. Many more will die if we attack. You would risk your life for people who are not even your species?" Tejo thought about the question. When the reactor was exploding, no one asked about species. Everyone was just people who did not want to die. These rebels are the same. They are people with a problem. Maybe I can find out what it is. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Very well. Go to these systems. Investigate. Report what you find." He looked at Tejo with serious eyes. "Do not make me regret this decision." Tejo bowed. I will do my best, Your Majesty. Lady Vera insisted on coming with him. You will need help, she said. You do not know our customs, our politics. I do. He wanted to refuse. It was dangerous. But she was right. He needed her. They traveled to the first rebel system, called Toran. It was a mining world, rocky and harsh. The people there were tough and hard-working. They had always been loyal to the Empire. The rebel leaders met them at the main city. They were suspicious and angry. They did not want to talk. They wanted the Empire to leave them alone. But Tejo did not argue with them. He just asked questions. Why did you rebel? What made you so angry? At first, they did not answer. Then, slowly, they began to talk. And the truth came out. The imperial governor of Toran had been stealing from them. For years, he took their mining profits and kept them for himself. He taxed them heavily and spent the money on his own luxury. When they complained, he punished them. When they asked for help from the Empire, their messages were ignored. They did not rebel against the Empire. They rebelled against the governor. They had no other choice. Tejo listened to everything. He took notes. He asked for records, documents, evidence. The rebels gave him everything. He traveled to the other two systems, Vara and Pelin. He heard the same story everywhere. Corrupt governors, stolen resources. Ignored complaints. The people were not traitors. They were desperate. He returned to the main city of Toran and asked for permission to send a message to the emperor. The rebels agreed. In the message, Tejo explained everything he had learned. He sent the evidence, the records, the testimony of hundreds of people. He said that the rebellion was not about hatred of the empire. It was about survival. The emperor's response came the next day. The three governors were arrested. They would be brought to the capital for trial. Imperial investigators were sent to examine their crimes. The rebels were shocked. They had expected punishment, not justice. Some of them cried. Some did not believe it was real. The emperor listened, one rebel leader said. He actually listened. He did, Tejo said. But now we have another problem. Your systems are broken. Your governments have collapsed. Your resources have been stolen. Who will fix this? The rebel leaders looked at each other. They did not know. A few days later, another message came from the emperor. Tejo read it 3 times to make sure he understood. Your Majesty, he said in his response, there must be a mistake. There is no mistake, the emperor replied. You found the problem. You fix it. I am making you governor of Toran, Vara, and Pelin, 3-star systems. Rebuild them. I am not a politician. I am not a leader. You were a janitor. Then you were an engineer. Then you were an advisor. Now you are a governor. That is how it works. You solve problems. This is a problem. Solve it. Tejo sat in his chair, stunned. Governor of 3-star systems. Millions of people depending on him. It was impossible. Lady Vera put her hand on his shoulder. Her touch was cool and steadying. You can do this, she said. I have seen what you can do. What if I fail? Then you fail. But at least you tried. That is more than most people do. He looked up at her. Her golden eyes were certain. She believed in him, even when he did not believe in himself. Will you help me? He asked. Yes. Even if it takes years? Even if it is hard and dangerous and thankless? Yes. He took a deep breath. Then he opened a channel to the people of Toran, Vara, and Pelin. His face appeared on screens across 3-star systems. Millions of people watched. My name is Park Tejo, he said. I have been appointed your new governor. I know you do not trust the Empire. I understand why. You were hurt and ignored. But I promise you this. I will listen. I will work. I will not steal from you or lie to you. Give me a chance. Let me show you what I can do. He ended the message. Then he started working. There was so much to do. So many problems, so many needs. Infrastructure to rebuild, laws to reform. people to feed and house and heal. It would take everything he had. But he had done impossible things before. He had fixed a dying reactor. He had risen from janitor to advisor. He had made an emperor laugh. He could do this too. He had to. Because now people were depending on him, not just humans, but all species. All people who wanted to believe that things could be better. He would not let them down. The three-star systems of Toron, Vara, and Pelin were no longer broken places of poverty and anger. Under Taiho's leadership, they had transformed into something new, something that made people across the galaxy pay attention. He had started with the basics: food, water, shelter, medicine. He made sure everyone had enough to survive. Then he moved to bigger things. He rebuilt roads and power grids. He opened schools and hospitals. He created fair laws and enforced them equally for everyone. He did not do this alone. Lady Vera worked beside him every day. She handled politics and negotiations while he focused on systems and planning. They made a good team. Together they solved problems that seemed impossible. Nira came too, the young Kalari servant who Taiho had shared his food with on the station. She became his assistant, organizing his schedule and managing his office. She was smart and hard-working, and Taiho trusted her completely. The results spoke for themselves. Trade increased, crime decreased. People from other systems started moving to Toran, Vara, and Pelin because life was better there. Humans, Kalari, and a dozen other species lived together peacefully. It was not perfect, but it was good. Other governors grew jealous. Tai-Ho was making them look bad. His systems were thriving while theirs struggled. People whispered that the human governor was better than the Kalari governors who had ruled for centuries. Some governors just complained, but some decided to do more. The assassin came on a quiet night. Taiho was working late in his office as usual. He did not hear the door open. He did not see the figure in black move through the shadows. But Nira did. She had come to bring him tea. When she saw the assassin raise a weapon, she screamed and threw herself at him. The assassin knocked her aside, but her warning gave Taiho time to move. The energy blast hit his chair instead of his head. Guards rushed in. The assassin tried to escape but was captured. Nira was hurt but alive. Taiho was shaken but unharmed. The assassin refused to talk, but Taiho's investigators found evidence. The attack had been ordered by 3 governors who saw Taiho as a threat to their power. Before Taiho could decide what to do, Commander Bren arrived with a fleet. "The Emperor heard about the assassination attempt," Bren said. "He sent me to make sure it does not happen again." Taiho looked at the warships in orbit around his planet. Dozens of them. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "Is this not excessive?" "The Emperor does not think so." Bren almost smiled. "He is protective of his investments." A message came from Emperor Dorath. It was broadcast across the entire empire so everyone would hear. "Park Taiho is my governor. His systems are my systems. Anyone who threatens him threatens me. The governors who ordered this attack have been arrested. They will spend the rest of their lives in prison. Let this be a lesson. Touch my janitor, and you will regret it." The message ended. Taiho sat in silence, processing what had just happened. The Emperor had called him my janitor, in front of everyone. It was a joke, but also a warning. Taiho was protected at the highest level. In the following months, life continued. Taiho kept working, kept improving, kept helping people. His 3 systems became known throughout the galaxy as places of fairness and opportunity. Places where your species did not matter, only your actions mattered. One evening, Lady Vera came to see him. She found him on a balcony looking at the city below. Lights glittered everywhere. Ships moved through the sky. It was beautiful. "You built this," she said, standing beside him. "We built this. I could not have done it without you." "Perhaps." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Do you remember when I first saw you? A human janitor returning my data chip? I thought you were strange. I remember. I watched you for weeks. I saw you fix things and help people and never ask for anything in return. I did not understand. In Kalari culture, everything is trade. You give, you receive, but you just gave. That is not only human, Teho said. That is just how people should be. Vera turned to look at him. Her golden eyes were soft. When I stood before the Emperor and said I wanted to keep you, I thought I was protecting an asset. Something useful. She paused. I was wrong. You were never something to keep. You were someone to admire, to learn from. Another pause. To care about. Teho felt his heart beat faster. He looked at her, this powerful woman who had risked everything for him, who had believed in him when no one else did, who had worked beside him for years and never once made him feel small. I care about you too, he said. I have for a long time. She smiled, that rare Kalari smile that changed her whole face. I know. She took his hand. Her fingers were cool and smooth. They stood together on the balcony, watching their city shine. The next day, Teho walked through the streets. People bowed as he passed. Humans. Kalari, others. They called him Governor. Some called him Sir. He was not comfortable with any of it. He saw a young man in worker clothes trying to fix a cleaning machine. The machine was stuck, making a terrible grinding sound. The worker looked frustrated and embarrassed. Teho stopped. He walked over to the machine and looked at it. The problem was simple. A gear was misaligned. He reached in and adjusted it. The grinding stopped. The machine worked perfectly. The worker stared at him with wide eyes. You are the governor. I am. Why did you help me? Teho smiled. I know what it is like. I pushed a cart like that for 3 years. The squeaky wheel always bothered me. He walked on, leaving the worker speechless behind him. 3 star systems, millions of people, power and responsibility beyond anything he had imagined. And he was still the same man who returned a stranger's lost chip because it looked important to her. That was the secret, he realized. Not that humans were stronger or smarter or better, but that worth was not about what you were. It was about what you did. And what Park Teho did was help. He always had. He always would. The galaxy had looked at humanity and seen nothing worth noticing. They had been wrong. Not because humans were special, but because everyone was special. Everyone had value. You just had to look closely enough to see it. That was what Teho had taught the Kalari Empire. That was what he had taught Lady Vera and Commander Bren, and even the Emperor himself. And that was what he would keep teaching, for as long as he lived. The janitor who owned 3 star systems, still the same man, still helping. Still worth noticing,